SwayamPrabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Yes, so while the experiences of the traditional media, like again, like when I say traditional, in this course we are trying to problematize these coinages also, like what is old media, what is new media, what is traditional media, and so on and so forth. So, when I say traditional media, again with all the caveats overdue within single quotes, like traditional, when I experiences of our experiences of the traditional media, more precisely the 20th century broadcast media, the television, the radio and the print are basically passive. The 21st century experiences of quote unquote social media. So, again like you understand there is an implicit assumption that we have progressed from traditional media to social media. So, there is a incremental progress, there is a incremental modernization. So, to say. So, with this, so while the experiences of the traditional 20th century media, television, print and the radio and so on has been passive, the 21st century experiences of the social media, imagine blogging, imagine online gaming, imagine chatting, or for that matter even e-reading or online shopping are highly interactive. So, this interactability, and again like I think it would be worthwhile reflecting on our experiences of, as I said, shopping experiences on Amazon, like as Amazon has recently launched the Amazon Assistant. One is aware the Amazon Assistant works as like a kind of a personal assistant that prompts you, and then like the guesses that Amazon makes in the form of like people who bought this also bought this, and this precisely accurate guesses points toward this interactability of the new media. Imagine again in this context, consider the Wikipedia as an example, like the 19th century print media would be consumed, the print journalism, imagine the newspaper, like people would read the newspaper. In other words, somebody there would be a producer of the content of the news and the reader would just function as a consumer of the news. So, there is a dyadic relation between the producer and the consumer. So, we will come to this and we will try to make sense of how the new media, the social media and the digital media and so on, they try to kind of make this the line between the producer and the consumer blurred, and how they turn basically consumers, what would otherwise in the context of the traditional media, who in the context of the traditional media would perceive to be consumers, are now rather collaborators. Imagine, consider for example, the Wikipedia example, like we do not have to necessarily believe in the efficacy or the veracity of the contents of Wikipedia. We can read things on the internet, and anything we do not like, we can at once go ahead and edit the contents. Of course, there are issues of surveillance, and that is one of our topics of discussion also. Like Wikipedia records your IP, when you the IP address, like it tries to make sense of the person, it tries to make sense of the location from where the edits are made. But having said that, nonetheless one can edit the contents of Wikipedia as opposed to print journalism. Like same is for blogging, like you blog something and you can immediately share your responses to what has been blogged. So, this constitutes the interactability of the new media. This is what some scholars call intermediality. This interactability or the intermediality of the new media following the digital turn has not only provoked new practices of reading or receiving media content, but also transformed, as I said, receivers or viewers into collaborators. Like I am now a collaborator, I am not just a passive consumer of the Wikipedia content. So, I can now pause a live sports event, like although it sounds ridiculous, but there are technological innovations that has been made. We can pause live events and resume. Say for example, a live cricket match, we can pause the event although it is live, and we can resume immediately after. So, we can pause a live event, we can listen to a live concert on YouTube, which say imagine a concert being streamed, and as I lecture, like it could be also live streamed, online podcasted. There are events, there are webinars which are these days live podcasted. There could be extract clips from the same, which could be shared on the social media, like extracts from lectures, extracts from webinars, extract from online seminars that could be extracted, pulled out and shared and posted on the social media, on Facebook. Facebook Live is a feeding infrastructure now, like people post and people stream live events on Facebook, and discuss this with my friends who I necessarily do not know. So, you understand there is a sense of interaction, how it is unfolding on the net. So, there could be people who I do not even know who could watch my lecture being live podcasted, and they could make comments, and friends of friends of friends could make comments, and so on and so forth. Take for instance the GPS device. So, the GPS device which is enabled on our smartphones can find for us obscure addresses that we never knew existed, like we could find addresses that we never knew existed. The Google Glass, although it is a product that has been rolled out now by Google, but this was a product which could literally take me to nearest restaurant or the bus station in places that I have never been, like kind of the way the Google map works. The Google map could take us to literally if you type in restaurants near me, it will. So, even if it is a new town, new city I have never been, the Google Maps will be able to guide me through and take me to restaurants and places that I never knew. So, likewise the Google Glass can take me to places that I never have been. So, with an appropriate smartphone app, one can read languages that one does not know. Like if you have an app on your cell phone, you can read. I do not speak Tamil, but if I have a smartphone app that will be able, that has the facility of optical character recognition, it will be able to make sense of the Tamil characters, the Tamil letters and the Tamil words, and will be able to translate it for me. So, these are just examples. So, these examples, what they are illustrating is the user based interactability, like the device that I have, the smartphone or the Google map or the Google Glass or the HDMI TV or whatever, like these are technological infrastructures. But then the point is not to look into those as pieces of technology, but these are infrastructure which is inexplicably linked with us. Those we are imbricated in the way we live out our lives with the help of this technologies. Like we are, like most of us are cell phone addicts. We cannot imagine living without the cell phone. The first thing we do is to check our cell phones in the morning, and even when we go to sleep at night, I think probably the last thing we look at is our cell phone. So, the cell phone, imagine, is very much a part of myself. I cannot imagine myself as a human entity without the smartphone, without the cell phone. So, like the point here, what I am trying when I say these are user based, when I say user based interactability, I am trying to hint at the impossibility of thinking us as pure human forms and technological infrastructures as quote unquote pure pieces of technology, pure engineering devices. Imagine someone with a more pertinent example could be someone with a pacemaker inside her body. So, she is at the same time a machine and a human. So, there is a very fine line between technology and human, in this case is blurred. Likewise, in me being addicted to my cell phone, in me being unable to live without the cell phone, renders the cell phone a part of myself. So, the cell phone and other such technological devices, technological infrastructures are in a way part of me. There is a sense of interaction, there is a sense of interactability, and this is user based interactability, in oftentimes coupled with user based customizations, as in the case of Amazon, as I have pointed, there are customizations say for example, the smartwatch as a device, like the Fitbit as a device. Those are customizable devices which are reading data sets from our body with the help of very precise customizations. So, this user based interactions go hand in hand with certain media customizations, user customizations. These two sets of phenomena, they engage into a sustained and critical questioning of the impulse to assume ourselves as passive consumers of the media. So, we are not just passive consumers of the media, like what the Fitbit produces, the kind of data set that the Fitbit produces is not for passive consumption. So, this clearly demarcated frontier of the consumer and the producer, as it used to be in the case of old or traditional 19th 20th century expressions of media, has now been blurred with these two phenomena, user based customization and user interactivity and hyper interactivity, and so on and so forth. So, in other words, and we are going to learn this as soon shortly when we look into the models of communications, in which I will try to trace the evolution from how models of communication in the old traditional system has shifted away from what we are here in this course calling traditional ways of communication to user based communication. So, this has in a sense rendered obsolete this distinction between passive consumers and the consumers and the producer, like this dyadic division has been rendered obsolete. So, what the semiotics, the significance, proliferation and impact of digital / social media point to is that producing and consuming the contents of media, as some of the earlier models of communication theory has suggested, are no longer two ends of the spectrum. They are imbricated, they are intertwined, they are related in a nuanced circuitry, like you produce and you consume, and what you consume you produce, and so on and so forth. It is kind of a circuit, and we will come to that in details shortly in the models of communication section. So, these are like what this user interactability is suggesting, that these are not opposite ends of two spectrums. So, the new media in this sense ceases to barely medium in the sense that Raymond Williams has invoked it. So, it is not just a medium, it is not just an interface, and is instead inextricably linked and relationally bound with the way that we live out our lives, and it is codependently originating with its users and consumers. And the range of examples of the devices and the infrastructures that I gave you, starting from Fitbit to the smartwatch to the Google Glass and so on and so forth, if you imagine, are both affecting our life and are both affected by us. So, this is the nuanced circuit that I am talking about. Effect. Imagine in context the Fitbit, like Fitbit is my pulse rate is affecting the Fitbit, and whatever data set the Fitbit is generating is also impacting how much calories I should consume, how much should I walk, how many miles should I walk, and so on and so forth. So, there is a nuanced circuitry involved here between the effect and how we affect the devices, the infrastructures, and how they in fact affect us. And this is a shift away from the 19th 20th century traditional media, where if we imagine the newspaper, it was unidirectional, it was a linear mode of affecting. The newspaper was meant to be consumed by us, and in no way could we imagine to be affecting the newspaper, impacting the newspaper, or for that matter producing the content of the newspaper. We were barely consumers. So, the new media in a sense ceases to be barely a medium, as I said, and is relationally bound with its users, consumers, and like I am stressing here. So, once the new media has rendered the distinction between producer and consumer blur. So, I am calling user consumer. So, it is no longer mutually exclusive, the user is the consumer and the consumer is also the user. So, it is codependent on us and it is originating with its user consumers who both effect and are affected by these pieces of technology, and we are both producing and consuming it. So, this is I repeat is one of the characteristics of new media, how it is impacting us and how we are impacting the new media.